is now the owner. He's not the inventor, but he's the owner. He's been involved for 12 years with the Sun Ovens, and he does not only amazing things with the Sun Ovens, but what you'll learn later is he does some amazing humanitarian work with the Sun Ovens as well, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. But I heard the presentation today, the one at noon. You're in for a real treat. I've had a Sun Oven for about 8 years, and I learned so much. I've cooked with my Sun Oven. I thought I was quite familiar with it. I was not as near as familiar as I thought, or I could be. So you will be amazed. Paul is wonderful. He's so well versed. He's traveled the world, and we are so grateful that he is here. So before I leave, I have something for you.
Oh.
Okay, two things. We wanted you to have some Utah saltwater
Oh, well,
taffy.
thank you very much.
It'll keep you awake when you're driving.
Oh, thank you.
Now, as you know, this is kind of a preparedness group, and with all your driving, we thought it was most important that you had a preparedness kit in your car.
Oh,
Okay, so if
fantastic.
anything happens, you are well prepared.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
so this is for you as well, for your
Alrighty,
travels
thank you.
back, and as a thank you for all that you do and for the information that you share with us.
Great.
And I'm not going to stay here tonight, but I know you're in for a real treat. So, Paul, thank you for
Okay,
coming, and I'll
thank
turn
you.
the time over to you and let you finish the introduction.
All right,
Okay?
very good. Well, appreciate the opportunity to be here. As I was introduced, we do have Sun Ovens all over the world. We actually have Sun Ovens in more than 130 countries around the world. But last year, 46% of the ovens we sold in the entire world, we sold in the state of Utah. So we started seeing, it was interesting, when in October of 2008, I was actually working in Uganda in East Africa, and when the financial collapse kind of hit in the United States, when Lehman Brothers and AIG and everything all collapsed the same week, and it was very fascinating watching it from the other side of the world and sort of looking at the United States from a completely different continent. But I was getting emails from my office saying our sales were going through the roof, that people were just getting Sun Ovens like crazy, and we discovered that as people were getting more serious about preparedness, when the economic times looked really scary there for a while, people were buying Sun Ovens, and so we really enjoyed the fact that we've been able to get so many people involved with Sun Ovens in Utah. But when we did follow-up studies, we found that the majority of people who had bought Sun Ovens in Utah never used them. They had them sitting in boxes with their other preparedness supplies and weren't using them. And this is one preparedness supply that will pay for itself as long as you use it. I mean, we do a lot of work. I'll talk about our work in Haiti, but in Haiti, people spend 55% of their income just buying charcoal to cook with. So if you could imagine spending more money on cooking fuel than you do on food, shelter, clothing, everything combined. But in Utah, I've asked thousands of people all over the United States, how much do you spend for cooking fuel? And only one person ever was able to give me an answer. If you're wondering how much you spend for cooking fuel, if you take your total utility bills, if you use the average amount in Utah, it would be about 11% of your total utilities. But 24% of your utility bill goes into air conditioning. So there's times on a hot summer day that if you decide to bake a couple loaves of bread, that it actually costs more money to bake the bread than it does to cool the house than it does for the bread itself. And so the Sun Oven can really pay for itself by reducing your air conditioning costs in the summer, as well as reducing the cooking fuel that you have. And you'll find that the taste of sun-cooked food is just magnificent, and so there's a lot of advantages to using your Sun Oven. So a major part of Provident Living is saving money and being frugal, and you can really find that in the summer so often, on real hot days, people have a tendency to eat out, get fast foods, you don't want to cook because it's just too hot. And the nice thing about the Sun Oven is if you want to, you can just start your dinner early in the morning, just let it cook all day and have it done at dinner time, and it can really save you a great deal of money on the food as well as on cooling off your house. So how many of you have Sun Ovens? Oh, quite a few. Great. Well, I'm going to cover everything from scratch for those who have them and haven't used them, and I'll probably answer the majority of questions that you have during the seminar. So I'd ask if you hold questions to the end. We'd be more than happy to take questions and answer any questions you have at the end. But if you hold them to the end, there's a good chance I'm going to cover whatever it was that you might have asked. Now, if I were in a developing country and was going to be teaching about Sun Ovens, and I've had the opportunity to do this on 5 continents, I would have somebody bring me an egg, and I would take an egg, and most of the time in developing countries you do everything outside, so it would be outside in the sun. I'd have a sun oven preheating, and I just put an egg on the shelf of the sun oven. And while they're going through introductions and doing different things, I just let the egg sit there. And in about 40 minutes, I'll have a perfectly hard-boiled egg with no water. And when we illustrate the principle of cooking in the sun oven, it's an even heat. The simplest way to think of it is, you know, on a cold winter day, sometimes you go out and you get in your car, it's sunny but cold, and you get in your car and you can't touch the steering wheel because it's so hot. It's the greenhouse effect of trapping all the heat in. That's what we do with the sun oven. So we sampled some of the rice and beans out there, but when we cooked the rice and the beans, I didn't have to stir it, I didn't have to tend to it or do anything with it, because the rice and beans inside the pot itself, and the air around the pot were all exactly the same temperature, so it was a completely even heat. If you think of the reverse of how you would do it on your stovetop, you would take and you transfer the heat from your stovetop to the pot, and then of course you keep standing there stirring it because the pot's hotter than the food and you can't let it burn. Well, in the sun oven, because the pot and the food heat evenly, nothing burns. The sun oven is very, very well insulated, and it traps the air inside and allows it to get hot. But what's great about it is that because it's an airtight seal, the moist air stays in the sun oven and no new air comes in. In your regular oven, there's a constant change of air and things dry out. Well, in the sun oven, because you've got this small amount of air trapped in this confined area, the moisture stays in there. So when you make a pot roast or you make a roast chicken, it is so much more moist and so much more succulent than when you cook it in a conventional oven because it doesn't dry out. So it's about the most forgiving way of cooking that you'll ever find. Food doesn't burn and it doesn't dry out. So a rule of thumb with solar cooking is if you're in doubt, cook it longer. So I mean, it's quite different than most other things, and it really does enhance the taste of food, and it's a fantastic way to cook. So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, you saw them outside, but this is a sun oven. It folds up and it carries like a suitcase, and it weighs 21 pounds. And to set it up takes just a matter of seconds. All you do is you open this up, and then your food goes inside this chamber. It has a glass door that opens to let the food go in, and then it has a tray inside that we call a levelator, or a leveling tray, that keeps your food from spilling when you move it to follow the sun. So as you saw, if you saw the ovens outside, the leg in the back of the oven was fully extended, and it has 9 different positions that allows you to adjust wherever the sun is in the horizon. You can raise or lower it to meet the sun. We started cooking here pretty late today, so we had it raised all the way up, you know, for the evening sun. But you can adjust it for exactly where the sun is in the horizon, and the food will stay level on that tray when you do that. I'll talk about focusing the oven a little bit later and explain, you know, how we do that. But the oven's been designed, as I said, we have them in a number of developing or third world countries around the world, and we've designed the oven so that it could be used daily for 15 years with no maintenance in a developing country. Which means if you put it in a garage or a storage shed, you're not using it here, there's no reason it won't last a lifetime. I've been making the sun ovens for the last 12 years, but I took over making them from the inventor, and they've actually been on the market for 24 years. And last month I was at a renewable energy event in the Midwest, and one of the vendors came up and he said, I bought one of these from the inventor in 1990, and he says, I use it an average of 3 days a week, and he says, it's going to be a family heirloom. I'm going to pass it on to my kids because it's not going to wear out. And he says, it's no different in temperature today than it was in 1990, and he says, I won't wear it out. So you really, you know, it's something over time, it'll get scratched and dinged and dented, and it won't look as nice, but it won't affect the performance of it, so there's no reason it won't last a lifetime. And the inner box of the oven and the leveling tray are both made of a black anodized aluminum. The outer box of the oven is made of ABS plastic, but between the inner aluminum box and the outer plastic box is a very thick pad of a non-toxic food-grade fiberglass insulation. So it can be 400 degrees Fahrenheit inside the oven, and you can touch anywhere on the sides and you don't feel any heat. It traps the heat very well in there. The reflectors don't get hot. If you should have mentioned when we were outside, but no matter how hot it is, reflectors feel the same as they do in here. So if you're worried about small children, there's nothing to worry about. If they touch anything, they're not going to burn themselves. There's nothing that gets hot. The door of the oven is made of glass, and when the door